So I really want you to prove to me that you're thinking about complementary colors. And I also want you to get a chance to try the watercolor pencil. So those will be the last 2 squares on your technique sheet. You're going to turn that in on Artsonia. The project name is Basic Watercolor Techniques. Okay? So complementary colors, we know they're opposites on the color wheel. Who can tell me what the opposite of yellow would be? Louis?
Purple.
Purple. Okay. So I am going to get some yellow on my palette. I kind of cleaned off that yellow. It had some brown on it, and I just used my water and rinsed it a couple of times. So I've got some yellow. I'm going to make a mark right here. There's no purple in the watercolor set that I gave you. So who can tell me how you would mix purple? Beth.
Red and blue.
Red and blue. So blue, I've noticed this royal blue, more primary blue, is one of the first to get used up in your set. So if you need another set, let me know. I will bring it to you. Okay, so red and blue. Blue's a little bit darker. You always want to start with a lighter color when you're mixing. The lighter is the righter way to start. So they're more similar, but it might take a little bit more red than blue. And here I have my violet. It's not very concentrated. It's still a little watery, so I'm going to go back and get a little bit more paint. And you might go back and forth a little bit. Now, you guys know when you did your wet on wet technique that if this purple touches my yellow line, they're all going to run together, and I won't get to see how complementary colors make each other brighter. When you mix them together, they neutralize each other. They cancel each other out. The brightness is neutralized a little bit. And so in this case, I'm going to take my yellow and purple, and I'm going to start with the lighter. That's the righter way to start, the yellow, and slowly add a little bit of purple until I get what looks kind of like this neutral tan color, a lightish brown. And I'm going to keep going with my other complementary color pairs. I'm going to do red. And you have 2 different greens. You have this light green in your palette, and you have a dark green. So what you get is going to be a little bit different depending on what you use. So I'm going to do red and green next to each other, and then when I mix them together, I will get more of a gray or black. And that, when I do my acrylic paintings, my oil paintings, that is my favorite black recipe. When I took painting, Professor Amanoff, on day 1, he passed out the supplies list, and someone raised their hand and said, "There isn't any black on the supply list. Did you forget?" He said, "No way. Please do not buy any black." And we spent a whole class period mixing our complementary colors to get different neutrals, which Professor Amanoff told us was a lot more interesting and rich of a way to paint with neutrals. The black out of the tube can be kind of cold in a painting. So that was a really great lesson that I've always remembered. And what's my last complementary color pair, Lillian, do you know? So I've got yellow and purple, red and green, blue and orange. Excellent. So I do have an orange. It just happens to be really dirty over here. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to mix about a little bit more orange because it's lighter than blue in my palette. But you guys see you get a brown, right? And you know this from painting experience from your days at Miller and Placentino. And you probably just painted until everything turned to mud. So that's what this should look like. And then you're going to use your watercolor pencils in this section. So the big idea here is that some materials are not gonna blend. Watercolor pencils, when you mix them with water-based materials, are made to dissolve and be water soluble. Dissolve will dissolve. And you may have talked about this in science, in a science lab. So when I paint over this with water, it turns to paint, and that's to be expected. The watercolor pencil is just a material that we often don't have time to get to, and it might be something that'd be really nice as you're bringing your piece to completion to add a little finishing touches or details. You can sharpen these in a regular pencil sharpener and do some refinement on your pieces. So that's it. You'll have 7 out of the 8 boxes for techniques and your observational drawing turned in, and writing an artist statement. You're prompted to write an artist statement too. And that's it. Okay.